And I've got William Prince here. Hi, William.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for making a stop here on your way through town.
Fancy meeting you here. This is this is an honor. I've had a lot of friends tell me about this place, so to be here is a big deal. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're glad you could make a stop here. William, do you remember sort of how and when music became so important in your life?
Oh, it started pretty early. Music was always around for me, and my dad's love of the greats, was the first real experience with music, and they had lots of music in our house all the time. So I was always picking records out by their covers and listening to them, enjoying them based on that, and I developed my own taste through their taste. My mom loved Whitney Houston and Celine Dion and the Beach Boys and such, and my dad was very much into all the greats like Hank Williams and Christopherson and Merle Haggard, all those old kind of troubadour singer-songwriters. So I feel blessed that that was a part of the education that didn't come formally. It was always having great music in the background.
Did you have some formal education in music?
No, as a kid I took piano lessons, and I know the chord families, but as far as any formal training, no. I learned from listening to good songs and playing old gospel music. My dad was in a country band and such, so when they needed or called upon me, I was playing tambourines, learning how to play rhythm, and then try my hand at piano and play guitar, all these different things. I was very eager to play music, so not knowing how to play it didn't stop me. It was great.
It was great. We're live at Caffe Lena with William Prince. William's new album is called Stand in the Joy. William, Peguis First Nation seems to be a pretty big part of your identity. How does that play into your identity and your music?
Well, the namesake of the reserve is actually one of my great-great-great-grandfathers a few times back there, and there were the chiefs were decided, of the reserves and such, were all my grandfathers. So it started with Chief Peguis. He would have established, the treaty back in 1871 of this territory, and the Treaty 1 territory in Manitoba, Canada, and established a settlement for the people. And so that nation, that area, that territory is, so much a part of my blood memory. My grandfather and my family, all the way down to, my father, who would have then learned in the old Prince Memorial Chapel. So it's interesting because I'm the grandson of this historical chief of culture. You think of regalia and the headdresses, but also my grandfathers became some of the first preachers that were a part of the Peguis First Nation, having a church there, and us learning gospel music. That's where my dad would have picked it up, and eventually, he would have sang in the bars in his younger days, and didn't really take it all the way, but always had a guitar around the house. And then eventually, when he started to sing gospel music again, he made some records and, took us on tour, so to say. We would play other communities, and Peguis is where all of that started. That's where my whole education with music and learning how to play in a band for the first time came from. So country music on the First Nations Reserve, it inspired a whole record of mine.
Yeah. And that was the Christian church, right?
Yeah.
At that time. Now you're not really associating as a Christian anymore.
No,
right?
I wouldn't say so. I'm of the cosmos now. I'm a free agent. I'm just out here thinking for myself, and I take full accountability for all things. And I very much believe in the cosmos and gratitude, and sharing that with people, and humbling yourself, and using the 7 sacred grandfather teachings now. That's something I didn't really have attachment to because of that divide, because of that interesting way to grow up, both in that kind of realm, and then while still having this inherent kind of blood right to culture and such. So yeah, a bit of an interesting walk.
Still very spiritual, though, right?
Yeah, I'm humble enough to, I think, to realize that, we were just staring at the American side of the Niagara Falls the other day, and you think, like, the first people to encounter that, how many thousands, hundreds of years ago that was, and that these structures, these wonders of the world have been here so much longer than we have. So my time here doesn't feel that serious. I just want to use it for good. I want to inspire. I want to create beautiful art and be a good dad, be a good husband, and all those things become more important to me as I realize, just how small we are on this journey. And that's one of the practices of those 7 sacred teachings, is having the humility and the wisdom to take a step back from yourself and, look around, give gratitude, give that to the world, and be a positive light in it.
Sure. Is that where Stand in the Joy comes from, sort of?
Yeah, it all blends together. Stand in the Joy is kind of my ode to this new decade that I'm starting. I went through such a heavy decade of grieving and separation and becoming a father, and just like, even redefining my relationships with family and things that don't serve me or my heart, because ultimately the way I'm affected by them affects my family. And so standing in the joy is, I come from a difficult situation. I grew up on a reserve where there wasn't a lot of opportunity, but from it made me who I am and helped me become the person that I am. So there's no way I can say it wasn't essential to this development, and from that I can look around at my life now and say, you get to do what you were asking to do. You're blessed with purpose, and your needs are met, and that's a lot more than a lot of people have. So I'm happy about that. That's standing in the joy. I'm inspired by my son. He's very happy and he's very joyous, and my wife to be, she chooses joy so readily, and it inspires me all the time to take a look around and not be so serious, to lighten your heart, to invite those things, even when things throw you a bit of a curve. It's how we adapt that really speaks to our character. And so, I don't want my son remembering his dad as he dropped his keys and he was grouchy for the rest of the day. I had a bit of that in my upbringing, so humbling myself enough to lighten up and show that I enjoy this life, because it is very, very enjoyable.
That's great. We're live at Caffe Lena. William Prince is here. William, would you mind playing a couple of songs?
I'd love to, yeah.
What would you like to start with?
Well, I'll play the first single from Stand in the Joy. It was, might not sound like a full departure into joy, but it really is about the privilege of somebody meaning so much to you that you miss them when you're apart. And a lot of us went through that in the past few years, not being able to see our families or gather together in a certain way. And so it really put into perspective what it is to have a piece of yourself belong to somebody, and when you're apart from them, it's evident that it's real, and you feel that longing, that beautiful longing for them. Is the moon shining bright where you are? Is it even shining at all? Running like a white line down the middle of some old memory. Does the evening unfold in waves, the desire to be nowhere or to go out and rage, like a time when it was more than just some old memory? When you miss someone, tears you apart and then some. When you miss someone you love. Is the silence quiet or loud? A lifetime of questions, lost and profound, professing to a silhouette of trees on the ground here in front of me. When you miss someone, tears you apart and then some. When you miss someone you love. Now it's here in your absence, my mind doing backflips, reserve tank running on E. Intergalactic, into the static, searching for a memory. Oh, when you miss someone. Oh, when you miss someone. When you miss someone, tears you apart and then some. When you miss someone, someone you love. When you miss someone, someone you love. When you miss someone, someone you love. When you miss someone, someone you love.
That's great. Beautiful. What would you like to play next?
I'll play you the song. Play the song "Easier and Harder." "Easier and Harder" is a song very much I owe to just sitting around and listening to records with my partner, and we got the news that we lost Mr. John Prine that day, and we immediately started putting on all his music and celebrating him and his life and thanking him in our way. And then the next morning I woke up and this song, as if it had written itself, like John's songs tend to sound, like, you know, somebody said, plucked from the air, already complete. And it was easy to kind of go off the idea where she said, being with somebody over time, it really does get easier and harder. You know, you learn to love somebody and be loved and calibrate and learn their love language and figure out your own and put it all together. And the truth is, when you get past the honeymoon stage and into the later hours of the journey, yeah, it does get easier at the same time that it some days can feel harder to choose that love. So. It's also acknowledging that it's okay. Doesn't mean that it's not right, you know, throw the whole thing away. That's natural. Building a house here, it's gonna take some work. Love's a situation, manifestation, representation of what we like in someone who might go the distance, be blowing in the wind with beginning and the end, over and over again. Well, the truth about love, it don't come all at once. It gets easier and harder all the time. And if you don't give up, when pushing comes to shove, it gets easier and harder all the time. It gets easier and harder all the time. Well, the house that you built will stand for much longer. Leave your ego outside, makes the foundation stronger. If you learn to compromise, it'll spare you some hell. Honey, we just might make it in spite of ourselves. Well, the truth about love, it don't come all at once. It gets easier and harder all the time. And if you don't give up, When pushing comes to shove, it gets easier and harder all the time. Yeah, the truth about love, it don't come all at once. It gets easier and harder all the time. And if you don't give up, when pushing comes to shove, it gets easier and harder all the time. It gets easier and harder all the time. It gets easier and harder all the time.
We're live at EXT at Caffe Lena, William Prince, Easier and Harder. I'm glad you played those songs in that order because, first you make me cry and then I feel a lot better with that song.
I try to put balance into it, you know? It's a little of everything, like a good dinner should have. Why not?
That also seems like a song that folks might want to join you singing out there in the audience.
You know, usually that's what happens, but we're working with what we got here today, and
well, you wouldn't want to hear me singing.
oh, sure, you know, everybody can sing. That's what those songs are for. You know,
Yeah.
we write these ones so that, you know, the local choir will join us and give back, because it really is one of the greatest compliments and boosts to the spirit is when the works you make mean something and it resonates to the point that we join together. Part of my upbringing was kitchen table singing all the time, so I still write at the kitchen table and for the kitchen table to join us.
Now, when you were younger, I imagine that there wasn't this rich, huge baritone that you have now. I imagine it was a little bit higher pitched.
You know, I fought this voice for a long time.
Did you?
I really only had what was impressionable upon me, and that was when we would drive the 2 hours to the city and finally get local radio, and you would just hear the mainstream radio, rock radio, classic rock radio, and pop stations. And so I didn't hear my voice anywhere. I didn't really even hear my dad's voice anywhere except old Johnny Cash recordings and such. And so finding it finally just happened when I was envisioning writing country songs. I wanted to be a country writer. I wanted to write country songs and hopefully have them cut, and there's just nobody to sing my songs yet. And you go exploring at the coffee houses and wanting to play, wanting to perform and work on your performance, and I don't know when, it just gradually found me in a way too. And I was like, my dad was a big baritone singer. His dad before him was a baritone singer. Maybe there's something here that I need to lean into a little bit more. And that was just kind of the natural given voice.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome that you fought it a bit.
Yeah, at first it's you can feel insecure when, of course, you don't really hear it around. And then I idolized a lot of rock and roll singers at the beginning, so that was probably the worst.
Tell me who.
That was probably the worst thing to try and emulate. You know, my uncle growing up listened to the Doors all the time, and there was always like Zeppelin around. I loved a whole, generation of Canadian alt rock that was on the radio that I was trying to emulate. And I think of like those days of, I don't even want to name people. I'm just going to leave it at that. Use your imagination. But if they were playing detuned rock music, I was there trying to be it for a while. You know, you either go rock and roll or hip hop at my high school, and I was a headphones kid. You know, I wanted to ingest everything I could get my hands on, everything I could afford. I think about it, any spare money I ever had growing up, working jobs, would go to guitars and pedals and CDs to try and learn the next thing, and go print off music at the school because we didn't have a computer, we didn't have the internet, and and just go and obsess about these Metallica songs, you know, and then on the Sunday you go and set up for somebody's funeral service or something because they would call upon us. And my mom and dad very much encouraged it all. They wanted me to, if I couldn't see the world at the time, they were all for letting me hear the world.
That's great. That's great. We're live at EXT at Caffe Lena. William Prince. The album is called Stand in the Joy. William, thank you so much for taking a stop on your road trip through.
Chris, this is great. I'm so happy we got to meet and got to be here today. Like I said, it's a very storied stage, and I'm honored to sit here with you.
Yeah. What would you like to finish up with here?
Well, I'm going to do a very powerful, serious song that was inspired by the cinematic masterpiece that is Overboard, starring Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. One of my favorite movies from childhood. And an example, I was painting this photo of what my wife is like. What does her love look like and sound like and feel like? And, you know, it feels like my favorite movie being left on in the background. It just comforts me in a way. It's like Seinfeld or something. And, you know, like Goldie Hawn, she is funny and loyal and herself. And I make the joke that she's a little hard to love at first, like a Joni Mitchell record, you know. And I say that with love. I hope that doesn't come back. But, you know, you think of like Reckless Daughter, you think of the jazz stuff, and it's a deep dive listen, but at the heart is nothing but quality and pure craftsmanship and honesty, integrity, and just like Joni's music. And yeah, well, I name drop a bunch of women I admire in the song, and because the truth is I'm a feminist, you know, and I cherish the women who helped my life operate the way it does. All my label at 6 Shooter Records, you know, my own mother and my tour manager, my front of house sound, you know, all women with hearts and minds that are just very inspiring. So. She's a movie you leave on, cactus flower, Goldie Hawn, mercy in the way she talks, easy answers, sweet surrender, feels like the sweet surrender of love. She's a record on the table, Reckless Daughter, Joni Mitchell, grace inside the way she carries a willing heart that still surrenders, sounds like the sweet surrender of love. She's a picture in the gallery, music pink and blue, George O'Keeffe. See her timeless modern beauty on display when she surrenders, looks like the sweet surrender of love. And she's a flower on the ledge, yellow zinnia, black-eyed Susan, watch her grow into herself. Give her attention, sweet surrender. Live in the sweet surrender of love. She's a movie you leave on. Fleur de cactus, Goldie Hawn.
And we are clear. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Joel.